Depression and anxiety are among the most common mental health conditions experienced by young people. Now, research findings suggest that most youths experience depression or anxiety each year. Often, the symptoms are not recognized and therefore young people don't get the help they need. Now, sometimes these signs are ignored or even passed off. According to experts, about 1.4 million youths are suffering from depression, which is quite, a high number. And this is compounded by a variety of factors, including poverty, upbringing, among others. Now, we will, however, be looking at how moral decadence has led to the increase in the number of depressed youths and adults in Nigeria. And joining us to discuss this is Tunde Rama, and he's a mental health specialist. Good morning, and thank you for joining us on Daybreak Extra today.
Such a sensitive and important topic to be discussed at a time like this.
All right, so can you tell us, what teen depression is all about, and what are the warning signs, for teens? How do people know when a teen is depressed?
As depression, which will take about 21 days or more before you can conclude that you are depressed, because assessment is first done as a mental health first aid practitioner. We'll first do an assessment for you before we can now conclude that you are depression, because all mental health disorders have similar symptoms. But like you asked as well, what are the common symptoms of depression or for young adults or teenagers? Number one, it depends on the personality type of the teenager. So a teenager who is an extrovert, hyperactive, always wants to relate with people, may now isolate themselves. In other words, they are no longer stepping out to play football, hang out with friends. And why a teenager who is on the other spectrum, an introvert, might not be the one who wants to go out, step out, party, try to do all of those things he or she would not do before. So another symptom, I don't know if you understand that, another symptom will be they constantly have mood swing. They constantly have mood swing. So you can see that the emotional map for the day might be imbalanced. So such teenager might be extremely happy and all of a sudden on the other spectrum of being low in mood. He or she is no longer excited all of a sudden at a particular time. Another thing might be they may practice emotional eating. How do I mean by emotion? When people binge on food, even on alcohol, just to take away the pain that they feel, because they do not know how to drown the pain at that material time. So you might just see them eating chocolates, cakes, or so, anything that they feel comfortable with. They may just eat and eat and eat without being present or being mindful about things. Another symptom might be they may not relate with their guidance like they normally would do. They don't want to speak with the guidance of the parents or even the teachers. They are just withdrawn and are not able to participate actively in their day-to-day tasks. I hope that answers your questions correctly.
Yeah, well, it does provide an answer. But my question is, you made mention earlier that depression and sadness are often confused. And right now, the symptoms that you just enumerated right now, they sound like the symptoms of ordinary sadness. These are things that any ordinary teenager would do if he gets his heart broken by someone. A person will withdraw into himself. He will not want to associate with people. May resort to eating food uncontrollably. Might resort to drugs or alcohol. All this can be caused by a heartbreak, which somebody can get over. How can we be able to distinguish that this person is depressed and this person is sad? Because I think the symptoms are quite similar.
Yeah, earlier mentioned, all mental health disorders have similar symptoms. So as a practitioner, what we do is until you come to meet a psychologist or a mental first aider, when we do assessment, that is when we can really conclude that you have a particular ailment. Just like a medical practitioner as well, we can't say you have malaria or typhoid until you go for a checkup or an assessment. So it's a very wrong thing to just say, oh, this teenager is withdrawn from the parents, or this teenager is having mood swing, and then you conclude that it is depression. No, you really can't conclude until an assessment is done. So when you meet a psychologist or a mental health first aid practitioner, then they can tell you what exactly the problem is or the challenge is. Then they can also examine the root cause of such disorder. I don't know if that answers your question.
Okay, but as a parent, right? Once they probably realize or sense that something is wrong, with their teenagers. When you say teenagers, you know how teenagers act and how revolting they can actually be. How do they start up a conversation with that particular teenager to try to understand, more about what they are going through?
Okay, that's a very good question. One child will normally argue or scream and ask if you buy something or not. So from those observations, you are able to know that there is a particular challenge somewhere. Then you start one by communicating with such teenager, by asking questions. And like I said, not just open, not closed-ended questions, but open-ended questions. What do you feel today? I realize that you didn't give me a hug or a pet at the back today. Are you really fine? So we are able to ask questions that would enable them to speak out their mind. Then they can tell you, oh, mommy, daddy, I felt this way in school because someone insulted me, or because someone bullied me, or because someone picked up my item in class. Someone or my teacher did not relate well with me today. So asking open-ended questions is one way to relate with your kids. And another thing you need to do is for you to learn how to relate with them, you need to be present for them. How do I mean being present for them? Appreciate when they do things right as a parent. So it's not only when they get things wrong that you are appreciating them. Learn to appreciate when they get even the little things. We call it the little wins. Celebrating their little wins. Even if it means they have their assignments done promptly as expected, you should be excited about it. So celebrate the little wins that you have with them. So it's another way to be able to connect with your teenager.
Okay, you talked about, assignments, right? Can bad grades and, school stress cause depression in teenagers?
Yes, please. Stress can cause depression in teenagers. The truth is, even for adults, the moment the energy you dispense is more than the energy you conserve, the probability that stress will hook you up. I will say that again. The moment the energy you dispense is more than the energy you conserve, it means that stress will hook you up. So when you bombard students with lots of assignments, lots of activities, just because you want to push out your parenting responsibilities, back then I recall we would have lessons, we would have extra lessons, we would have more lessons just for us to be occupied. Our parents do that then just because they are busy parents. Some parents are not available parents and they just feel they can fill up their to-do list by giving them lots of tasks, not giving them time to rest, not giving them time to meditate, not giving them time to do extracurricular activities like playing football and all that. So the moment you bombard their brain with lots of tasks because the brain needs to rest for resets. And once your brain resets well, it's have direct implication or impact on your physiology. So when you see a vibrant teenager who is actively learning in class, you will know that these teenager parents have done some quite a number of work in terms of managing their day-to-day tasks, managing their diets, managing what they feed their eyes and body with. So it's important for you as a parent not to bombard them with lots of assignments and try to give them more research to do, because the more you do that, you help their brain to be excited, and when the brain is excited, you get the best performance.
All right, so my question is, most of the problems associated with mental health in our environment now come with the fact that a lot of it goes undiagnosed. We don't even know that people are suffering from these mental health challenges due to one stigma or the other. You understand? On the part of the teenager, he'll feel like, if I go out and tell these people this is how I feel, they'll think I'm crazy. On the part of the parents, they'll feel that, okay, fine, if we accept that this child is having mental health challenges, that means I have a crazy child. How will the society look at me? How can we be able to avoid that? How can we be able to circumnavigate that fear of stigma that is attached to mental health issues? Because whenever you hear mental health, people just go crazy. That's the next thing that comes to their mind.
Yeah, that's a very good question, sir. And the truth is, it's not a Nigerian thing, it's a global thing. So I've been privileged to have different conversations like this across different countries, and it's a global thing. Even from the statistic from World Health Organization, we understand that it's just about 40% of the countries of the world that have mental health policies. So this problem is here to stay until we take active responsibility, really. And stigmatization is even a killer than the main issue itself. So this is a very good question you asked. For statistics, what statistic, according to WHO, in 2015, about 300 million people around the world are suffering from depression. But in this part of the world, some psychiatrists say about 1.4 million, which is the one recorded or the one spoken out, like you mentioned. Some folks are just concerned because of stigma. So in the case where stigma is, in the case of society where stigma is being pronounced loudly, what can we do differently? So number one is, let's learn to do more awareness. What do I mean by more awareness? Let people know that having a mental health condition is not a death statement. So, like anxiety, sadness, they are just signals, they are just information to our brain, information to our body that we need to pay attention to a dysfunction that is about to eat us up. So the moment we see mental health condition from that perspective and not lunacy, not being mad, then we are able to judge it accurately. So mental health symptoms or disorders like anxiety are just signals. They are not a dead statement. We need to see it from that perspective. That when you feel anxious, it's your feeling speaking to your brain, so that you can take active responsibility at that moment. So the truth is, the moment we practice more awareness in schools, like most schools right now, I think they are practicing what we call mental health awareness. They invite most practitioners to speak to them on how to identify mental health disorders, what to do, and how to get them done. So one thing we need to do is to promote more awareness of mental health, like we have doing right now on this show this morning. Another thing we could do to promote mental health awareness is, number two, let's include it in extracurricular activities in school. So when we do that, maybe every Wednesday or Friday, depending on the school curriculum or schedule, then we can now talk more about mental health conditions, how to identify them, what to do when you feel anxious, what should you do when you feel sad. And if possible, we are able to take assessments with them, like ACE assessments, When I mean ACE assessment, I mean adult childhood how you're able to assess the first 18 years or the first 15 years of their life. You're able to take PCEs, positive childhood experience assessment. So when all of these assessments are done, then you can now realize that mental health conditions are actually not the same as being mad or being a lunatic. So it's one thing we really need to promote. And number three, let's take the conversation home as well, because the family is one of the most foundational and fundamental units that we need to learn a lot. So if the father, the mother take it as a responsibility to talk more about this issue, they can share their experiences with their teenager. Even their young adults at large, they can let them know that at the point I feel anxious, this is what I try to do differently. At the point where I feel down, this is what I try to do differently. So when you have this conversation with them consistently at home, in school, and religious organizations or institutions, then they can see that feeling anxious is a normal thing. Feeling angry, sad are normal things, but you need to do something with what you feel.
Okay, now earlier where you were talking about, changes to actually look out to, that warning signs to actually look out for in these young adults. Now you talked mostly on the behavioral changes, and when it came to emotional changes, talk about being sad. Are there other emotional changes that parents should be on the alert for?
Also feel anxious. I'm just having a common conversation.
We're talking about moral decadence being a vehicle that actually has increased the rate of depression among youth and among teenagers, what we're talking about. But can we look at it from can it be the other way around? Could it be the depression that is actually leading to youth acting the way they're acting, meaning spiraling down into moral decadence? Can it be the depression that they're going through, the mental health issues that they're facing, that is undiagnosed and untreated, that is making them act the way they do? Not really how they're feeling, that is making them how they act.
Oh, that's a very, very good question, sir. The truth is, all of these things that we see right now are trauma. I will say that again, they are actually trauma responses to poor leadership. I would like to talk about that very well. So when we have a failed system like our country where youths, teenagers lack the basic needs of life, We don't have access to power in some places. We don't have access to water, potable water. We don't have access to basic needs. Needs are basic according to Maslow hierarchy of needs. You would see teenagers, young adults feel down. They don't have their needs met as a leader. And the truth is that we are in for a big shock in the next 10 years. What we see today is the consequence of a failed system. What we will see in the next 10 years will be more deeper than this because we are not having leaders who are empathetic. We are not having leaders who really think they should meet the needs of the people. We only have leaders who want to just come in to be the leader. So the truth is, if we don't solve all of these things, we would have more issues on ground. We would have more problems on ground. Okay? So it's one reason why we can't behave in a certain dysfunctional way because when the youth or the young adult feels that there is nowhere to go, there bad gangs, they just want to be.
So, how do we address the stigma attached to depression, especially in our climate, Nigeria or Africa?
Another thing is for us to include it in extracurricular activities. For example, like every Wednesday or Friday, we can include it in the
Yes, we can hear you.
the first responsibility, okay, the first responsibility is to listen to them before you judge them. Let's not be a society that loves to condemn but never learn to listen. So let's listen more to people when they tell you they feel in a particular way. And number three, don't downplay what they feel. Don't talk them down. Don't say, oh, what you feel is just normal. It's not just ordinary anxiety. Like the speaker here mentioned that some might be heartbreak or maybe grieving or something. Don't just downplay it and say, oh, is this not ordinary grieving? Is this ordinary heartbreak? By now you should be out of it. No. Don't downplay what people feel. Don't say, oh, it's just a failed assignment, it's just a failed test, it's just a failed work, it's just a failed downplay, and let's try to listen and encourage people more when they tell us they feel in a particular way. And also let us try as much as possible to at least learn basic skills around mental health. So there are different courses on different platforms where you can learn about mental health first aid, where you can learn about mental health first aid for teenagers, for adults. So if we improve ourselves in this part, we will discover that yes, we really can kill stigmatization. When we are both aware, when you are aware, everyone in the community is aware, then we are able to propose solutions collectively.
All right. I think with that, we will be wrapping up this particular discussion. Thank you so much, Mr. Tunde Rema, for joining us to discuss this very, very important topic on Daybreak Extra today.
Thank you so much for the invitation.
All right. With that, we'll take a quick breather and be right back.